By the year 2045, sperm counts will be 0. 1 in 4 couples are suffering with infertility.
When sperm and egg come together, there's a certain amount of health that dad brought. There's a certain amount of health that mom brought, and that is now frozen in time, and that's the starting point for this baby. That energy that each parent brings to the moment of conception, that energy stays with the baby for its entire life.
When we think about myths that we have believed about fertility, so many women feel they're like, well, something's wrong with me. But there is a high chance and probability that it might be your man.
More than not at this point.
And when we talk about men's health, is that testosterone? What are the causes? Like, what are you seeing in your studies? Some of your highest success rates are with women who are over 40. So there is no clock.
Yeah, no, there's not. Kids that are born via IVF, what the research is showing is that they have higher rates of brain tumors and other leukemias. Think about it, like the egg has pheromones that it sends out to attract sperm. If it doesn't like sperm, it makes the sperm turn away. When we do IVF, you chose the egg, you chose the sperm. What if your body was not even wanting to choose that? All cancers are hormonal at their core. If you are dealing with cancer, you're also dealing with infertility. Could infertility be a very early warning sign of potential cancer diagnosis down the road? There's another side of the fertility story that I think is not discussed enough. So when women are on birth control, they're actually attracted to a different type of male than they would.
Let's do it. Welcome to Vaught Empowers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. Y'all, we got a good one today. I found her on the internet talking about sperm. I said, well, she got to come and sit in the seat. Dr. Marcia Schaefer is a first-generation chiropractor and a holistic health practitioner. As the founder of the Schaefer Protocol, Dr. Schaefer has created an evidence-informed protocol for optimal epigenic health expression. Her clinic is a healthcare ministry and is the first of its kind in Wisconsin, providing the best fertility and preconception care. Her method is responsible for birthing over 100 babies in her clinic alone. Marcia is passionate about changing the tides in the reproductive world because she believes there is so much more to becoming pregnant than just having a child. Vaught Empowers Talks welcome wife, mother, chiropractor, and holistic wellness practitioner, Dr. Marcia Schaefer, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. We shook the nerves off, y'all. Listen, she said, Brandi, I don't know. I say some stuff that's not the norm. And I said, that's why you're here. Because we're going to talk about some things that we don't normally talk about when it comes to fertility and birthing children and becoming parents, not just for women. Because so much of your practice is centered around preparing fathers and dads to become, to get this parent journey going, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes two every time.
Yeah, it takes two. You talk about the energy of conception. And I kind of want to start there before we go into all the crisis around the fertility crisis around the world, because it says that we are in a fertility crisis. I want you to talk about when we're looking to conceive and have children, the energy that starts before you even get in the bedroom.
Yeah, so each parent brings a specific amount of energy. So quantum physics is going to understand we all vibrate at a certain frequency. Imagine the difference of when people start dating, right? There's so much energy, there's so much excitement when they're first married, there's that energy and excitement, and then they want to have a baby, and a month passes, 2 months pass, 5 months, a year, and all of a sudden it's like, well, it's the 17th, I'm ovulating today, let's go. Yeah. You know, and that energy that each parent brings to the moment of conception, that energy stays with the baby for its entire life.
When I heard you say that, I was like, oh, I totally can believe that energy is going to stay with the baby throughout its entire life. How?
Yeah, so it's like that moment in time when sperm and egg come together, that's where the epigenetic work comes in, right? So there's a certain amount of health that dad brought. There's a certain amount of health that mom brought, and that is now frozen in time, and that's the starting point for this baby. So I'm just trying to elevate the starting point for those babies so that the next generation can start easier than their parents did.
Yeah. You said there's some things we should be doing pre-gaming. So some of us out here, we pre-gaming wrong. Some of y'all taking shots to pre-game. Y'all over here pre-gaming for the bedroom, and you're saying it's starting 120 days before you even jump in the bed. 120 days, you need to be doing some stuff.
Yep, at
Yeah.
minimum 120. So the egg cycle, we're not born with all the eggs that we're ever going to have. That was disproven in 2004, but unfortunately people still believe it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
It's still told, and that needs to be brought to light that it's not that we're born with all of our eggs, but over that 120-day cycle from what's called a primordial follicle. So basically the egg is in a very dormant state. It goes to an active state in 120 days. So every egg cycle, you could say, is a chance to have a healthier, more vibrant egg to bring to the game. So instead of, I need to be pregnant this month, okay, well, my egg is 1 month healthier. I've got a healthier egg, and sperm takes 90 days. So we have new sperm every 90 days. So that's why I work with couples for a year, ideally, but minimally 120 days prior to conception.
Wow. I mean, what's so good about this? And you said that there are some things that you need to do when you're talking about conceiving and being ready for conception.
Mm-hmm.
First thing, get prepared. The second thing, get nourished. Get focused is the third. And the fourth is to affirm.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about getting prepared, what does that look like? Because there's a lot of studies that are saying, stop the drinking, work out, get the right food in your body.
Yep. And that's all important. And so a lot of the things that I work with couples, there is some supplementation that we work with, but it's if there was one thing that I was to say all couples should do, it should be that they're getting metabolically flexible. That is such a vital thing for sperm health, for egg health, and for the epigenetic expression of the next generation. And so that's not just a food thing, because I often tell people what you tell yourself about the chocolate cake is going to kill you faster than the chocolate cake will. Because a lot of times, if you look at a food and you say, oh my gosh, that's toxic, it's got all this stuff in it, or if you're like, well, that's going to nourish my body. I'm not saying chocolate cake nourishes your body, but
some people at the drive-thru right now, Doc, they're like, you know what? I'm thinking that this is healthy, and it's not, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but that attitude of, we're seeing in the holistic health world, people are so scared of everything now.
Yeah.
And you either believe that innate intelligence is real and that our bodies are adaptable and responsive and self-healing, self-regulating, which they are.
Yeah.
But we've given our power out. We've given our power to doctors and other people to say, well, I know what's best for you. The best practitioners are going to return you to your own body and say, what do you think is going on? And so that's part of the preparation, because I don't give a specific diet. I don't tell people this is exactly how you need to eat, because different situations require different needs. If I have a marathoner, I'm going to respond very differently with how they should be getting their goals in versus, someone who's not working out at all.
Yeah.
We need to get them moving. But yeah, so that's a lot of the preparation, is how you're choosing to check in with yourself and how you're choosing to nourish your body, mind, body, and soul. So through food, through thought process, through how do you move because you have to go work out, or do you move because you know that it's going to fire your brain? Like it's driving your brain.
Yeah.
It's helping you make better choices during the day. That's really the benefit.
I mean, metabolic flexibility.
Yeah.
You talked about fats, you've talked about carbohydrates, because there are some people like, well, do I have to give up meat to get pregnant? Do I have to give up carbs to get pregnant? What do I need to do? You're saying the biggest thing you're going to have to do is get rid of the stress.
Yep.
That's what's keeping the problems at the top of the surface, right?
Yep. It's rarely, I don't know anyone who gets home after a long day of work and they open the refrigerator and they say, what do I feel like eating, right? Everybody says, what do I feel like eating? It's not, what's going to nourish my body today? They're eating their emotions. And so getting back in check with yourself and understanding, I've had a really stressful day. How do I want to best respond to that? Maybe I should go for a walk tonight before dinner. Maybe I should get my system reset before I'm eating, because I'm going to make better food choices. And that better food choice is ultimately going to lead to a healthier system.
Yeah, a healthier system. No one party is more responsible than the other. So the woman is not more responsible in this fertility journey, and the man is not less responsible.
Right.
They are equally as responsible when they come to the table to conceive this child, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or the table or the bed or wherever y'all gonna be. Some of y'all on the table, baby. I already know. Some of y'all on the table. Listen, but so much when we think about all the things that have been the myths that we have believed about fertility, so much of that onus over the years has been placed on women.
Yep.
I mean, I've had women sit in a seat, Kiana Watson, I'll reference her interview. She talked about going through IVF, and then she gets on the Zoom call with the doctor, and they're like, it's not you, it's your husband, and so many women feel this pressure because they're like, well, something's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a high chance and probability that it might be your man that is the problem.
More than not at this point. Yeah. Because I'm finding, in 3 out of 4 pregnancies that are lost in the first 12 weeks, there's chromosomal abnormalities, and it's been tied back to more chromosomal abnormalities are found in sperm than egg. And so the male could be actually the reason that those losses are happening in the first 12 weeks. There's also a difference in the first 12 weeks. You have something called trophoblastic nutrition, and the egg is not actually getting mom's blood supply. The egg
Repeat it, Doc.
Trophoblastic nutrition.
Trophoblastic?
Mm-hmm.
Trophoblastic?
Yep. So that's when the egg, all of the major divisions are happening, right? When the conception happened, the egg starts the process of burrowing into the lining to build the placenta and build the umbilical cord and do all of that process. At 12 weeks, the blood supply shifts over to mom. So if we're having a loss in the first 12 weeks, I found it more tied to dad than mom. But
Wow.
How many women are told, don't talk about your pregnancy for 12 weeks because it's common to have losses, or you need to go through fertility treatment or IVF because you've had all of these multiple miscarriages within the first 12 weeks. And then you're not testing the guys, or they're doing a semen analysis, which is a horrible measure of what we should actually be looking at for fertility. And then they have no idea why it's not happening and why the moms are so sick during pregnancy and why the kids have tongue ties and they have all of these other issues. Well, it's because we're not talking about health as a sign, or I'm sorry, fertility as a sign of health. We're talking about fertility as I need a baby. And the baby should be the effect of the work. The pregnancy should be the effect, not the goal.
We got to dive into this because this is the reason why I found you. I saw you speaking on a panel. You had this viral clip that went wild over the internet. And I feel like since I've seen that clip, so much more conversation has been coming out around sperm health, semen health, and men and the role that they play in fertility. I want you to dive deeper in this because the statistic says 1 in 4 couples are suffering with infertility and having trouble getting pregnant. And when we talk about men's health, is that testosterone? Is that when we talk about sperm health? What are the causes? Like, what are you seeing in your studies?
So, again, the major thing with men is also going to be insulin response. And it always made me question things when we look at the guys and we say, okay, what are your jobs? You're the electricians, you're the carpenters, you're the people working around chemicals, you're working around more VOCs and the plastics. And yet, you're not someone that we should be looking at just as equally as we're looking at women. I'm not saying this is, I don't mean to sound like it's all male, but what I'm saying is women have carried this burden for a very, very long time. And a lot from that clip on TikTok that went viral, so many women said, wow, a weight is taken off my shoulders because it wasn't just me. And I constantly blame myself. And I have zero interest in blame. I don't want to say it's your fault. It's, it's his fault, it's her fault. There's a shared responsibility, and that's an opportunity. And if your future children are the goal that you have to say, how can we be our best for them? It starts before they're born. It starts before the pregnancy happens. And so many of our guys have felt, especially if they've been through the fertility clinics, which a lot of them have been through the fertility clinics before they find me, they've said, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of used for one thing and then I'm kind of shoved off to the side, and now all the focus is on her, and they don't even have that connection to their child of like, what does it mean to be a dad, because they're shoved to the side and basically your job is done. And that's not true at all.
So go back to the insulin resistance, because some people in our audience may not even understand, what does that mean? How is the body responding when you're insulin resistant?
Yeah, so insulin resistant, I like to use the analogy of your cell should be like this jelly blob, right? Your cells should be very flexible. If you are insulin resistant, you've got like a dodgeball for a cell, right? So stuff can't get in and out of the cell, and you can't move hormones properly. Your body puts a lot of inflammation out. So insulin is, and that's where a lot of my work came back into stress and it not being about the food, because in my own journey, I had to ask the question, why did some people heal and others did not? Why didn't all of us have the same response if this is what we chose to do? And it came down to stress response, and that stress, the cortisol drives insulin. So you can't just chase insulin, which is the driver of every single hormone in your system, without addressing cortisol and the stress response.
Yeah, the stress response. Here's a statistic that's out here right now. 2045, by the year 2045, sperm counts will be 0. Sperm counts have dropped 50% in 50 years. Estrogen is challenging the world. What does that mean when it comes to fertility and sperm health?
Oh, that's huge. So Shayna Swan has a book called Countdown. That's where that stat came from.
I saw her. Yeah. I watched one of her
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah.
To prep for this. Yeah.
So she was talking about that with the chemicals too. But the sperm count, she's saying it's a species-wide epidemic. Like, this is not something that is just slowly coming on. This has been progressively getting worse. Sperm counts have declined. The decline in sperm has doubled since 2011 every single year.
Wow.
So we're seeing an even higher rate of decline since 2011. And so, yeah, the numbers are not good.
So is this why all the men want princess treatment now? No, I'm just I just had to, Doc. It was just burning.
Well, you think about what estrogen does. So if there was a teeter-totter, and I'm oversimplifying this for hormone structure, but if there was a teeter-totter and insulin was in the middle, if women are insulin resistant, their estrogen will turn into testosterone, which is how you deal with PCOS. And you've got androgen dominance. Men with high insulin are going to have that testosterone, and it's going to change into estrogen, which is where you get the men who are having more female-like characteristics. So you've got this imbalance, and the driver of it is insulin.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even when I look at this younger generation, so many of the younger guys, they have breast. And I think that this is a contributing factor to that.
Yep. I think we have had the longest standing untested research, I guess you could call it, by introducing birth control back in the 1960s, because all of these numbers, even the traditional semen analysis, that's where a lot of things went with that video. The semen analysis comes from a 2009 study that looked at 2,000 men that basically said, can you get your partner pregnant in 12 months? And they took their numbers from that study of 2,000 men and said, these are semen parameters. And so first off, that was a 2009 study. It's 2025, and we know that they've been declining. But they put their acceptable limit, the World Health Organization put it at the 5th percentile. So all of these semen analysis, when the guys hear you're passing, that's at the 5th percentile. So
you're already below average.
Super below average.
Yeah.
Yep. You were deemed infertile. Like in the 1960s, if you were under 116 million per mil for your concentration, you were deemed infertile, and now the standard is 15 million per mil.
So what do we have to do? You talk about the metabolic flexibility, you talk about supplements in your practice, and you talk about the stress and how we manage it and how we can eliminate it. What's the first thing a man needs to do if they want to conceive a child and they want to come into this with optimal health?
So I know that I'm biased, but I would say start chiropractic care. Because when your nervous system works better, everything works better. When your stress response can be better regulated, I find often people don't make bad food choices because they just want to make bad food choices. It's typically they're stressed out, and this is something, and you can almost every time tie it back to their childhood that brought them peace or they felt good, right? As little kids, if you do good at school, if you do good on your homework, you get ice cream. If you don't do your homework, you don't get ice cream.
If you read, you get a personal pan pizza. This, the millennials, this is what we grew up with.
Yep. And then you turn into an adult and nobody regulates that. And so now we've got all of these like grown children that are like, oh, I can do ice cream whenever I want to. And, you know, so that nervous system response is really important. And that's one of the foundations of chiropractic care, is to help the body reorganize energy so that your nervous system can function more optimally, which means it's an ease on your stress response. So it changes how your body responds to stress.
Yeah. I can totally agree with this because I told you before we started, I have been on a chiropractic regimen of every other week and sometimes once a week going to get an adjustment, right? Because I weight train so much, because I just know that spine health, it ties to everything in the body. And I told you I hadn't had an adjustment since January, and I feel the effects of it for sure. But I want people, because even when I asked my team this in pre-production, I said, have you ever been to the chiropractor? And Dom said, when I got into a car accident.
Yep.
And that's when most people think that you go to a chiropractor is when you've been in some sort of accident.
Yep.
So I want you to help people, like, how can they start to implement this as a part of a practice into their healthcare plan?
So yeah, there's two types of chiropractic. There's the chiropractic that's neck pain and back pain. That's absolutely a great use for chiropractic. But then there's another side of chiropractic, and where I see the benefit of chiropractic is like you wouldn't go to the bank just to take the pens, right? You're going to the bank because you're going to invest. You're going to have your money there. Your health is the same. Health is the new wealth. And so once you're out of pain, let's say your bank account is zero. Now, what do you want to do? Do you want to invest in that health of your system? Well, that's where you continue your chiropractic care, because every time you get adjusted, it's just like every time a woman ovulates, right? Every time you ovulate, you get a higher dose of progesterone for the 2 weeks. That's bone health, that's breast health, overall, all form mortality decreases when we've got regular ovulatory cycles. Your health is no different, but not ovulation for everybody. But when your
Yeah.
nervous system, every adjustment, your body is reorganizing energy. It's changing how your brain is functioning. So when you have an opportunity to get adjusted, not because you're in pain, but you're getting adjusted for the health of it, it starts to rewire your brain, and you start to see neuroplasticity changes.
So if you are looking to get pregnant in this season,
Mm-hmm.
you would suggest and recommend getting with a good chiropractor.
Absolutely. So I teach for the ICPA. It's the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. And the docs that are trained by that organization can have up to 200 hours of post-grad training in family wellness. So when you have people that are focused in pregnancy, they're not going to be the symptom chasers. They're not going to be there for your neck pain and back pain, although they can help that too. But they're there because they're trained in how to work with pregnant women. They're trained in how to help support families. If they are certified, they've taken my seminar, so they know exactly what those suggestions are going to be. So they're able to really help guide a different conversation when it comes to your health.
So the chiropractor, you would definitely suggest that. And then you talk about supplements.
Yeah.
Is there something that everyone could put in their diet or put into their regimen that would help them increase their chances of fertility?
Oh, so yeah, there's a few. So there's one product, phosphatidylcholine, is
So, okay, slow down. Okay, say it again, Doc.
phosphatidylcholine.
Phosphatidylcholine.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So some people work with choline. That's great, but the body has to go through more work to break that down in order to use it. So phosphatidylcholine is actually exactly how your body's going to take it in. It's a vital part of every single cell in your body. It's a vital part of your gut lining. And sperm and egg require fat. If the body doesn't have proper levels of fat, it's going to use cholesterol, and that makes oxidation with the egg, with the sperm. It's not good to use cholesterol as building blocks, but the body will use it because that's what it's going to use, whatever it's got. It's interesting, between the phosphatidylcholine and glycans, when I started actually tracking the outcomes of our pregnancies, our babies stopped having tongue ties when we were starting to use that. And I think it comes back to the whole, everyone's told to get on folic acid, if you want to get pregnant. And I don't agree with that at all. There's the folic acid turned into a folic acid and folate fight. And I was like, if we take a physiology first focus and we actually care about building blocks before a B vitamin, let's look at what the neural tube, the very first thing that's created, is not created of B vitamins. It's created from fats. So if we're making sure that the body is already stocked, it's got good fats in its system that are not oxidized, they're high quality fats. Now the body's got building blocks. It's got an opportunity to start building properly. And I do believe that's why a lot of our outcomes, out of 181 babies, we don't have gestational diabetics. We don't have preeclamptic moms. We don't have all of these regular or normal
Even morning
pregnancy.
sickness.
Nope. As soon as we started putting dad, I didn't always work with the dads because I've been a clinician for 15 years, and that's where a lot of my work has been up until, that video went viral and a lot more publicity came. But it wasn't until I started working with dads. We had a mom who had 3 miscarriages, and she started care. Her A1C, which is one of the measures that we look at, that was off. A lot of her biometrics she was not in a healthy state. And so we worked with her for 120 days, and her numbers got really, really good. And I said, okay, we should work with your husband. And she's like, oh, he's busy. He can't make it in. And I was like, okay. And she got pregnant, and all of her pregnancies she had lost at between 6 and 7 weeks. And she was pregnant, like HCG levels were high to the point that we thought it was twins. And she lost the pregnancy at 11 weeks.
Wow.
And so I said, okay. And she said, I feel really good about this. I've never been pregnant this long. I think we're on the right track. And she got pregnant 2 more times, lost the pregnancies at 9 weeks and 8 weeks. And her husband refused to come in the entire time. And I ended up releasing her from care because I said, this is directly related to him. And
this is why I wanted you here, because I think that this is going to free so many women when we talk about this conversation, because for so many of us, right, so much of your worth is put on whether or not you get married, you have children.
yes.
And then can you birth these children, all these things. When it comes to relationships, it's like, oh, she's a mom. Look at her. Look at how great she is, right? But if we can't do that, then it's like, something's wrong with me. I'm defective.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not worthy. What am I doing? Why am I not good enough? You run through all these questions in your mind, and you're saying dads have got to step up to the plate so
Yep.
we can get this thing under control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many women who take it as the full ownership onto them. And I'm like, hey, ladies, go home tonight and try to make yourself a placenta. Good luck. You can't do it. We can't do it because sperm builds the placenta. We know that paternal DNA builds the fetal side of the placenta. So, and insulin-like growth factor, which is another insulin, we want balanced insulin prior to pregnancy. That's what creates a lot of the morning sickness issues, because there's this battle. The dad wants the baby to grow. The mom doesn't. I mean, she does, but from a biology standpoint, there's protection of the host, right? So the baby, there's this back and forth between the placenta that's saying, baby grow, baby don't grow. So that's why if we have metabolic flexibility, which basically is, I always describe metabolic flexibility as, these electric cars. They have battery and they have gas, right? So that's fat and carbohydrates. And your body should be able to change back and forth between fat and carbohydrate metabolism with no problem. It's not the idea that you need to be keto or that you need to be, fat adapted or carb adapted. It's that your body should be able to be flexible between the two of them.
Okay, so we got the supplements, we got the stress, we got chiropractic care. What is that thing that you would tell a man right now if he's like, look, I want to have a baby, I want to have a family, we've been trying to conceive, my partner and I, it's just not happening. What would you tell him to do?
So I would tell him that, it's the same thing. Get adjusted, start taking your supplements, start taking care of yourself. And, there's another side of the fertility story that I think is not discussed enough. So when women are on birth control, they're actually attracted to a different type of male than they would.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Doc. Come on.
Come on. They're attracted to a different type of male. So women will get off birth control and all of a sudden will not be attracted to their partner anymore. And that is more common. We've had divorces. We've had people who have thought, if I'm going to do this work, I'm going to invest in this, and this is what I need because the baby's going to save our marriage. And I'm like, absolutely not. Babies don't save marriages. And but yeah, they'll find, and I do believe that there's an energetic thing with couples too sometimes when they can't get pregnant. And a lot of women that I'll talk to will say, ugh, I can't get him to do anything. He won't do any of this work. And I'm like, and that's who you want to have kids with. That's who you want to have kids with.
Okay, so go back to the birth control.
Yeah.
What type of men are we typically attracted to on birth control? And then what happens when we come off of the birth control? Because I'm going to be all the way honest. I was one of those college students, I was, you go at college, they put you on birth control because you were sexually active in college. Mm-hmm. And by the time I was 22, I had never done it again because my blood pressure was high. It was taking my body through so many changes. And so I haven't taken an oral contraceptive in years, in over 20 years. Yeah.
So, and I think that all, it's typically you're going to be attracted to someone, the birth control is going to override all your body's normal hormones. So women who think that they're on birth control to regulate their cycles are absolutely not. But you're changing your thyroid function, you're changing your insulin response, and that changes actually how you perceive safety. That changes how your body sees and views the world based on the hormones that you're taking. So you're going to be attracted to the guys, and that's going to be individual based on each woman and what her own nervous system is telling her what is safe, what is not safe. And so, but oftentimes, yeah, you're going to deal with guys who aren't as dedicated when you're taking birth control, and you're going to deal with a different type of guy than the ones who are calm and ready to settle down and like actually wanting to give you the time, because there's a lot of safety, and that can be perceived as boring.
Wow. Okay, so when you've seen couples who have been on birth control and then they've gotten off the birth control, what do you see? Because you said some people get divorced. What are you seeing in this response from the woman when she comes off the hormones?
So I work with women in about 2 to 3 months before they get off birth control, because I want to get their system good with the nutrients, and they're doing a lot of the things. So especially based on understanding why they started birth control in the first place. So I can't tell you. I would say maybe 1%, 2% of women that I work with got on birth control because they were sexually active. All the rest of them, I had headaches, I had acne, I had heavy periods. And I'm like,
that was me.
It's not even the reason to be on birth control. But
it was me. Heavy periods.
Yeah.
And I was like, they said, oh, you just get on the birth control pill.
Yep.
And I was, first of all, horrible at it. So, baby, if there was if you could find a more inconsistent person with them, that was me. Yeah.
Yep. And so they're just giving it as a Band-Aid, and they're never actually helping women. And then that doesn't surprise me that they are dealing with fertility issues, because your crazy periods years ago are telling us your hormones are not working. Well, I mean, they are working, but not optimally. And now we're just going to shut your entire system down with birth control for years potentially. And then you want to have a baby and you don't know why you can't get pregnant.
I mean, Doc, I have known women who have been on birth control for 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, since they were 19 and 20 years old. Some of them since they were 16 years old. And they have that same conversation is, oh, I just want to regulate my cycle. Yep. I have really bad cramps. And so if I get off the birth control, and you're like, you are doing way more damage. This domino effect is not just with these cramps. It's going to come into the cramp of that food that you better have this baby with. Okay.
Yep. It's going to come into everything. And that's where, I mean, the reason that I do this work was because of my own health journey. So I feel like a lot of people, especially that work in healthcare, that have had a significant thing happen to them, it drives what they do. And while my journey involved getting diagnosed with cancer postpartum, I was able to retie back into all fertility issues, or all cancers, All cancers are hormonal at their core. And so if you are dealing with cancer, which is hormonal, you're also dealing with infertility. Could infertility be a very early warning sign of potential cancer diagnosis down the road?
Wow.
And
And this is with all, because what form of cancer were you diagnosed with?
First form was thyroid, and that had metastasized into my lymph nodes and lung, and then also melanoma, so skin cancer.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I was 3 months postpartum when that diagnosis came in, and it was through that just desire to want to actually grow up with my son, because they told me, 8.5% chance at 5-year survival, you're not going to see him turn one. You're not going to see him turn one. And that kind of changed everything. And it started a kind of reverse research to figure out why did this happen and how did this happen and why do so many women get diagnosed with cancer in pregnancy or early postpartum. And, if we actually want to end cancer, and that's not even to have the conversation of the babies that get diagnosed with cancer that are going through fertility treatment.
Yeah.
And the parents needed fertility treatment to have the kids. So, ultimately what it came to me was, if I want to stop cancer, it's so much further upstream. We've got to stop letting people get into this. I need to balance my hormones. We need to understand the hormones. We need to understand why your body's responding the way that it is, because it is intelligently designed. God didn't just forget to make an immune system. He didn't just forget to be like, oh, you've got regulatory mechanisms, but we've been taught, let's trust somebody outside of us. Let's not trust ourselves. We need to trust somebody who's smarter, who has a degree or whatever, to tell us what's going on with our body, instead of trying to navigate our symptoms as signals and have someone who can help us navigate what those symptoms are to understand the signals.
Symptoms as signals. I love that because you see women that are over 40.
Mm-hmm.
So we got these red pill community people out here, you lose value after you're 27 years old. And by the time you're 30 and 35, you should be on clearance on the clearance rack. You should be at the Goodwill. All the things that I hear out here on Beyonce's internet, okay? All the things I hear. But you have a totally different outlook when we talk about bringing children to the world, because there are so many women that you see that are over 40 years old. Some of your highest success rates are with women who are over 40.
Yep.
So there is no clock.
Yeah, no, there's not. There's society that sucks in that sense to tell women that they're, if you are ovulating, if you're having a bleed every single month, you can get pregnant.
Amen.
That's what your body's telling you. It's saying you still have the energy, you still have the vitality, you can still get pregnant. And so, we tell women that there's, 35 is geriatric. I just want to punch people when they say that, especially practitioners. 35 is not geriatric. We have women that are choosing careers, and that's okay. You can have a career, and then you can become a parent too. And to be totally honest, I think you hit the nail on the head. I have 26-year-olds who are like, my ovaries are going to leave me next month. If I'm not pregnant, I have to be pregnant now. It's my moms who are 38 to 42 that are like, they're just at a different level of they're just more calm about the situation. They're more focused. They're ready for it. And sometimes the career, yes, it's important too. Yeah. And you can have all of it.
Life just changes after 40. Yes, I am so glad that Lord, you did not drop the stork, didn't drop a baby over here, because I was not equipped, right? Mentally, the preparation, the knowledge that I had, that I'm able to have now. So when we talk about women over 40, because I told you off camera, I follow a woman who got pregnant for the first time at 47 years old, had her baby, is living her best life, is even thinking about possibly having another child. What do you say to those women who feel like, okay, time is running out? What do I need to do? How do I best set myself up to conceive, with optimal health?
Yeah, I would tell them you're not running out of time. First thing is that you have consistent ovulatory cycles. So we want a very consistent cycle, because that's going to show us again that stress is low enough, nutrients are high enough, and that your body still has the capacity to reproduce. So I would also tell them, understanding that those 120-day cycles, when you know that your egg is new every 120 days, do the things that you want to. Just know that health is a journey. It's not a destination. There's not something that you should say, well, pregnancy is my goal. No, your health is your goal, because you want to be healthy for your kids and your grandkids. You want to be able to be a vibrant parent and grandparent. And that's where the focus needs to be. Age needs to be taken out of the entire equation. What would you do if you were 26 and you were having the same conversation? No different. And I have conversations all the time with women who say, I need to freeze my eggs. I was told to freeze my eggs. I'm 36. I haven't gotten married yet. I don't know what to do. And, same thing I tell them is, you're 36 and you've got a lot of time. You can improve the quality of your eggs, because the quality of health of your eggs right now might be less healthy than a healthy pregnancy at 40. You could work on your health, and you could really start to optimize your workouts and your nutrition and your nervous system, your stress response, and you could have a significantly higher quality pregnancy at 40 than you did at 36.
Yeah. I love that, because so many people feel this stress, and they feel like, because I've even said it to myself. I've said it multiple times. My mother constantly reminds me, you don't need to say that, Brandi. Tamron Hall had a baby at 48 years old. And I'm like, Marcia, I am at this big age, because my mom's name is Marcia. She spells it the same way as yours, Dr. Schaefer, I told you. I'm like, Marcia, I am at this big age. I'm going to be 43 years old. And my mother keeps telling me, like, Brandi, children can still be an option for you. My mom was over 50 years, well over 50 years old, still having a cycle, So I know that even when I look at my mother, that the future isn't bleak, right?
Right.
But I've told myself that so many times, like, well, I'm at this big age. And so, I mean, if it doesn't happen, and you're like, you don't have to freeze your eggs. You don't have to harvest your eggs. Because that's been the conversation, too, that so many of us have had. Like, well, I didn't freeze my eggs at 35, so now I got these dust ball eggs up in here, baby, rattling around. And you're like, that's not the case.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, your eggs are the quality of your health for the last 120 days. So if you look back over the last 120 days and say, wow, this has been a good season. It's time to, if you want a baby, that would be time to say, yeah, I'd be good having a baby right now. Because a lot of times, I feel like there's either this fear of like, I'm too old or age, or I can't tell you how many women have said, my last pregnancy, I was in bed the entire time. I was so sick. I had severe morning sickness. I can't do that again. I cannot do that again. So I am good with one and done. And then I say, and there's options, and that doesn't have to be your reality for another pregnancy. Just because it happened in one pregnancy does not mean it will happen in another.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of fear around birthing children and bringing children into the world. I mean, we look at the mortality rates, especially with Black women, being extremely high.
Yep.
What are you seeing as far as there being a difference? I know we talked about this. You said the studies really aren't there as far as the difference between Black women and white women and how we conceive and all those things, right?
Yep. Other than maternal mortality, which, yeah, we do know that there is definitely a discrepancy. I feel that, it took until 2017 to put a box on the death certificate to say this woman was pregnant.
Yeah.
So, we haven't even been able to track it because we haven't been measuring it. And how do you change what you don't measure? So our standards of, even the gold standard, which is the research, right? And gold standard is great, and it's all focused on sell a drug, sell a procedure. It's bought in that sense. And so you're not looking at true physiology research because organic broccoli farmers just really don't care about publishing research. And that's where we're starting to do case reviews and case files that we're researching, or we're publishing our research from all of our case studies because we've got the biometrics, we've got the lab work, we've got, all of the stuff that to say these are the outcomes that we're doing so we can improve maternal outcomes, we can improve pregnancy outcomes, and ultimately we can change the health of this next generation by setting their bar higher than what their parents would have given them otherwise.
Yeah. I want you to go back because when you talk about setting our children up for success, there has been a lot of conversation that is coming out now when we look at children who've been conceived via IVF or if these children have been conceived naturally.
Yes.
What is that conversation that people are having right now?
So the kids that are born via IVF, what the research is showing is that they have higher rates of brain tumors and other leukemias or other cancers, so blood cancers like leukemia. And mom is at higher risk for cancer for up to 15 years. So I think her cancer risk for breast cancer is doubled for 15 years after she goes through all those hormones. And the guys, prostate cancer is a big one from the fertility drugs, especially Clomid. And that's not the conversation that they're having enough, because all of the couples that I've talked to, they have said, it's not going to be me though. I'm not going to be one of those women that get diagnosed with cancer. And it's because they want the baby so bad. And so I think we need to change the conversation to it's not about the baby. Not a single couple when I'm sitting asking them, hey, why do you want to be a parent? Nobody says, I just want to be pregnant. They say, I want to create traditions and memories, and I want a child, to have men sit in my office and tell me, well, I would like to be able to give unconditional love because I've never received it. Mm. And, you see these guys that just their heart is broken open and they want so much, but society has said, you're not someone who needs to do fertility stuff. It's all her. And, they want a partner. They want to be in a partnership, and it's an amazing, amazing experience when they do that.
Okay. So this risk of IVF, how it increases cancer. I mean, so many women, I have so many friends, $30,000, $40,000 into the process.
Oh, yeah.
And you're almost paying for your death.
Yeah. And it's only a 30% success rate. So you're paying a lot of money. And nobody wants to be that jerk that after a baby is diagnosed with a brain tumor wants to go into, well, how were they conceived? After they were diagnosed with leukemia, how were they conceived? It's not that I'm not saying it because I want to be mean. I'm saying it because if we can't have the conversation that matters, how do things change? If we can't start questioning what these methods are doing, how do we actually change things? And yeah, it's a lot higher than we should expect. The American Journal of Human Genetics actually said that the cancers cancers in children born to parents who undergo fertility treatment is such a higher rate that we need to be doing more research into it. But I mean, if you think about it, like you want to look at the energetics of fertility. The egg has pheromones that it sends out to attract sperm. If it doesn't like sperm, it makes the sperm turn away. The sperm cannot even come to the egg. So the egg chooses the sperm that gets to fertilize it. When we do IVF, you cut the tail off the sperm, you inject it into the middle of an egg, you chose the egg, you chose the sperm. What if your body was not even wanting to choose that? And we're now creating a completely different lack of choice, I guess you should say, from the egg to choose the sperm.
That is so good. I have never even heard that put like that. That is so good because there is, when we talk about like how God has designed us and created us to be these vessels, these life-giving forces, we have so much power and we've relinquished so much of the power to the medical system.
Yep. And that's the whole idea behind the genetic determinism, right? Back in 2000 when they said genes cause disease, well, and then we learned that genes don't cause disease. That started a whole different conversation, but the medical system continued genetic determinism. They continued that central dogma and understanding that, this is how it is, because if genetic determinism was real, if your genes cause disease, then you need a rescuer. You need someone to save you. And it's that idea that, like, disconnect from your body because somebody outside of you is smarter than who you are and what you can provide. I'm not saying every person has every single answer. Sometimes it's another person to pose a question that makes you say, oh, I never thought of it that way, but what about this? And that starts this dialogue that you get to learn more about yourself as you have, in my opinion, the right practitioner to ask the questions to bring forward some different perspectives in how you think about healing.
I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up because when I was prepping for this, 1% of disease is determined by genes, and that's determined at birth.
Correct. That's going to be your cystic fibrosis, Tay-Sachs, Down syndrome. I mean, these are things that you are born with it. And so I tell people, if you're born with it, it's genetic. If you're not born with it, so like high blood pressure, diabetes, insulin issues in general, the vast majority of things are epigenetic. So they're influenced by your environment. They're influenced by your habits. And so you are not a victim of your genes. You've got this complete opportunity to change everything, change the expression of health. They've done cancer studies where they've done plant-based diets with people, and they've turned off, I think, 43 or changed the expression of 43 cancer-causing genes. But we don't have cancer-causing genes, but that's in the literature. They're going to say that. Because again, if God created us, I can't imagine in all of our glory to be created, our creator would say, yeah, let's line these ones with chronic illness. That sounds like a really evolutionary smart thing to do. It just wouldn't happen. And so, but when we look at the pharmaceutical industry and the diagnosis codes and everything and how they can bill, it makes a lot of sense as to why they'd want to turn that into a business.
I mean, here's what I heard you say, and this is Brandi saying this didn't come out your mouth. We don't have cancer-causing genes. We have cancer-causing choices.
Absolutely.
That's what I heard you say.
Absolutely.
It's the choices. And I think that people have to understand that they have a choice, and then they can choose again.
Yep.
Yeah, we can choose a different outcome.
Yep. And that's the beauty of epigenetics. It's not about chasing after your past. It's about making a conscious choice in the present moment to say things are going to be different, and I'm in control of that. And that's the power of epigenetics.
Okay. Whew. I feel like I'm so excited to have this conversation. And I know that for the people who are listening to this, they are going to walk away with, they're going to be armed and equipped with so much more vital information to transform their lives. Because there's so many people who have been struggling for such a long time. And nobody's given them a license and no one's given them the permission slip to see it a different way.
Yeah.
And that's what I think your work is, what you're doing. Yeah.
I'm hoping to return power back into the individual that I'm standing in front of instead of saying I'm I'm the hero. I'm the one who can dictate everything. I want to be a guide. And I've wanted to be a guide since I got into healthcare. I have never wanted to say, I'm smarter than you. I know better answers. I just know more questions, and I know physiology different. So that's going to cause me to ask different questions.
What is the question that women and men who are looking to conceive in this season, what's that question they should be asking their healthcare provider?
Asking their healthcare provider. Oh, that's a great question because they're not very good at creating health. I would say asking their healthcare provider, what measures can I do now to ensure that I'm going to have a high quality pregnancy and that my baby is going to be as healthy as they possibly can be?
Mm.
It's going to be a challenging question, though, because medicine at its core is intended to treat symptoms and find problems, right? And you're always going to find a problem if you're searching for one. And if you get paid to find problems, you're going to search and search and search, and that's where people are just going to come up with different things to try to cause the problem, or will not cause the problem, but find it.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Flexner Report?
No.
So the Flexner Report was written in 1910 by Abraham Flexner. He was a school teacher. And basically, if you've ever wondered, hey, my doctor, this new supplement, this new way of eating, I'm going to ask my doctor because my doctor should know if this is good or if this is bad. I hear this from people all the time. They're like, well, if my doctor would have known about that, they would have obviously told me. The Flexner Report explains why that's not exactly true. So 1910, Abraham Flexner writes this report to basically create a standard for the medical system. He partnered with the Carnegies and Rockefellers, and they basically said, we will accredit your schools, we will do everything necessary if you use our drugs and surgery. Now, the drugs that they were using were byproducts of the coal tar and petroleum that the Rockefellers had because there weren't a lot of cars in 1910. So they found the alkaloid, or the healing component of the plant, put that into a capsule. It's called pharmakia, which is actually, the term underneath pharmakia is sorcery and witchcraft, which I find quite hilarious.
Wow.
And they now have these pills, and they tried to sell it to Doctor at 1910. I mean, Doctor was everything, it was anything. And they tried to sell it to the doctors, and they said, that is insane. I have a plant. Why would I need a pill? And so they accredited the schools, built the colleges, and said, as long as you use our drugs and our surgeries, we will continue to accredit you. And at that time, midwifery decreased by 80%.
Yeah.
All of the other holistic healing arts started to decrease, and it's because of the Flexner Report. The word quackery was actually in the Flexner Report. So everybody who didn't do drugs and surgery was a quack as of 1910.
Yeah.
And so when you understand the history of the AMA and how all of that started, the doctors don't give you nutrition suggestions because they can't. It's literally not in their core curriculum, and it's not to bash medicine. It's just that is their curriculum. They're going to save my leg and my body if I break my leg or if I get in a car accident. I want you to be the best at what you can be. You are not the best at creating health. That is not medicine's job. It never was.
It's not a job to create health. When we are pregnant and we conceive and we are on that journey, are there things that you would tell people to stay away from? Because there's a lot of shots, there's a lot of things that they tell people to get.
Yeah.
Is there something that you would say, I might think twice about that?
Well, I would ask for the safety studies for any vaccines in pregnancy or any shots in pregnancy. They don't exist, so that's an easy answer. But yeah, I mean, I would say stay away from the stuff that if you wouldn't do it outside of pregnancy, don't do it in pregnancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the shots, a lot of the vaccines, there's never been any safety studies. I mean, we're just learning now that, some of us are just learning now that they're finally demanding that a placebo be used in vaccine trials, and it can't be vaccine against vaccine anymore.
I mean, as a person who's done so much research on holistic care and practices, I have my own opinions when it comes to the vaccine conversation and whether or not we need to put these children on scheduled vaccines and all that stuff. I am not a proponent of it. As somebody who's worked in education, I see the effects of what happens when they are on those schedules. And so is there something that you would tell parents now about that as a healthcare practitioner?
I mean, I would ask the same question. Where are the safety studies on multi-dose vaccines? Where are the safety studies on this schedule that we have? I mean, you and I are close to the same age. I was fully vaccinated, and my full vaccine schedule was 12 vaccines.
Yeah.
And now there's 70 in that same time frame.
Yeah.
So there's been no research. There's been nothing to validate increasing dosage like that and doing no studies on multi-dose vaccines, which the 5-in-1s, the 4-in-1s. There's no research there to say they're safe.
I definitely think that as a child who was very sickly, because I was a very sickly child, asthmatic, allergies. I mean, I'm the only person I know who had scarlet fever twice as a child. Multiple rounds of pneumonia as a child, always respiratory issues, bronchial infections, all of that. So I didn't play sports. I was not, an active child because there was always this worry that, oh God, please, she's going to get winded. She's going to need her inhaler. She's going to need something. And so my own life of a child being very sickly has turned into the way I practice and live my life now, because I understand that there are some things that were done that I had no control over as a child because I wasn't making those decisions that really affected my health. When we talk about asthma, we talk about allergies. A lot of that, I believe, came because I was a highly vaccinated child. Yeah.
Well, and antibiotic use is also very tied to asthma and allergies in young kids.
All the things.
Yep.
I was always on some sort of antibiotic, always on some sort of medication as a child. And I think, and this is not a fault to my mom. I think she was doing the best she knew how to do. I think,
absolutely.
And as a young mom, you're 24, 25 years old, having this child, these twins, having twins, and, you're a young mom. And so, of course, you're looking at the doctor like they know what they're talking about.
Yep.
I think they do know. And so you take all of the suggestions, but then you don't understand that there's a cause and effect for everything.
Well, and imagine, again, that's that whole idea that your body is not capable of responding appropriately. Imagine if that conversation changed in the preconception period to how powerful you are and how your immune system works, and, what that could do to change the choices that you make for your kids because you understand things differently. My goal has never been to say, well, you're going to just need to trust whatever I say. I want to teach you not to need me. So I'd like to teach you how the physiology works, and not in the educated terms that I got trained in, but in a way that you can understand it and actually be able to apply it to your life. And so I think we have a massive responsibility as healthcare practitioners to help people understand health differently so that they can have different questions when they're talking to their doctors, or they can make better choices in the grocery store. I always tell my moms, I'm not going to be at the pediatrician's office with you. I might not be at your birth. Most likely, if you're in the hospital, I won't be. I don't get to be at all of these life things, but I want you to remember, because there was some conversation we had about something that you're going to be like, oh wait, but I remember this is what I want to consider. And if you can do that, now you're getting more empowered. You're the one who is stepping into this different role. And it's truly an education as we learn what works best for us and our families to make those choices.
I mean, that's so powerful, because I told you probably one of the reasons why I probably don't have children is I was in the birthing room. My sister, my twin sister, had her baby. Baby, I saw enough, okay? I said, I don't know, doc, okay? Natural birth, no epidural.
Yeah.
Vaginal birth, the whole deal. So this
awesome.
was, and here's the thing. At one point, when she was pregnant, I thought I wanted to be a doula. I was like, I think I want to help bring people, bring their babies into the world, right? And so I remember saying, you got to stick to your birthing plan, and of course the contractions start coming. And at one point she was like, I think I'm just going to need the epidural. And they came in and asked, I said, no, you have to stick to your birth. Now I got tribal music playing in the damn room, dog. She was so annoyed with me. She was like, cut that shit off. I'm like, you're about to bring your baby into the world. I'm giving her all these affirmations and stuff. And she's like, shut up, right? And of course, she got to the point where they were like, okay, well, do you want it? And I'm like, no, don't talk for me. You don't need to speak for me. But I remember, you can do this, because I was reading so much, so many studies, so much research on what happens when you bring your baby into the world on drugs.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even...
And this is not to, discount anyone's experience because they did. Because I know they'll be like, Brandi, But there is a lot of research around when you have the epidural.
Yeah, from autism risk, there's definitely, and postpartum depression, higher rates of postpartum depression with the Pitocin and the epidurals. Yeah, there's definitely something there. And I would have 100%, my first labor was 29 hours and I was over 42 weeks. I don't have babies at 40 weeks. My body apparently didn't read the textbook and it likes to do its own thing.
They're like, I'm coming when I want to come.
Yeah, both of my kids
Y'all
did.
away from me.
But I had so much pain. I remember thinking I was at transition. I was going to be pushing a baby out and I was 2 centimeters dilated. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I had my daughter, and she was an unassisted home birth because she came so fast. She was 4 hours, and I had no pain. And before my daughter's birth, I would have said, you have 3 heads, if you would have told me that labor doesn't have to hurt. But what I learned between my 2 births was the more fear you carry into your birth, the more it's going to hurt. And so it's releasing that fear, because women are not inherently taught to trust birth. We're taught you die during birth. Birth is very dangerous. It's very scary. And so there's this fear, and I believe that makes women actually experience more pain. And so now you can look at birth, and I had no fear with my daughter. And 4 hours, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a head. And it was such a different experience. And you never would have made me believe that before that experience.
Let me tell y'all, Doc didn't change my mind, baby. Y'all might see me an over 40 woman pregnant. Okay, listen. She didn't change my mind today about so much. And I think that's the beauty of what we get to do. We get to choose, and we get to choose again.
Yep.
Yeah. The epidural conversation, I think, is something. But before we go, because I want to touch on this, I know I'm running over my time. At-home birth, unassisted, is what you had with your last child.
Yep.
Pregnancy, delivering a baby in a hospital is very different.
Very.
And there are many people who have all type of, thoughts and feelings around it. They're like, I want to be in the hospital because if something happens, I need a doctor. I don't want to be in my house, and who gonna get to me? When we think about our grandparents' generation, we think about our great-grandparents, nobody was delivering babies in the hospital. They was at home having these children.
Everybody was at home. Yep.
So what is the difference? And then what's an expectation that people can have if they choose to have a home birth or a water birth? We have a lot of people talking about water births. What is the expectation that people can have?
Well, so did you see some of the research that came out after COVID?
Mm-mm.
After COVID, maternal mortality actually decreased during COVID because more people went home to have babies.
Oh, wow.
So we actually saw a change there. And there has been a big movement to move back home. Finding a midwifery team, having a doula. My first labor, my son and I both almost died. And just a very, very traumatic birth. And I still remember waking up. The entire team was gone. I had no idea if my son was alive. My husband was gone with him. And it was just, the room was silent. And I looked to my side, and my doula was sitting right there. She was the one that stayed by my side the entire time. And she said, your baby is alive. He's great. Your husband's with him right now. And she brought peace that transformed everything for me. And so I am a massive proponent of doulas at birth. The doula has more of the support for mom, whereas the midwife is meant more for the baby. So some people are like, why would I need a doula if I have a midwife? Why do I need a doula if I have a husband? And I'm like, how many births has he attended?
Child, and let me just say this. My brother-in-law, baby, we was both in there like, what is happening? He was like, I want to go look at the game. It was during the NBA finals, okay? It was the year the Cavs won the title, okay?
Yeah, but the doula can advocate in ways that spouses, partners, sometimes they're too close to the situation. A doula can advocate. So you can ask your hospitals, do you allow water birth? Do you allow me to, can I birth in the shower? Can I labor in the shower? Do you have tubs? You can do that. And there's also tubs that midwives can bring to your home if you choose to do a home birth. Some of the hospitals are getting a lot more friendly, but what they're calling birth centers at hospitals are not birth centers. So having, one of the things that I really push for my families is you're not having who's ever on call. It is not the midwife on call that you go to. It is this midwife is with you, and this midwife is staying with you during your pregnancy. You build a relationship and a trust with them, and the hospital can't always provide that. Which to me would say birth center or home if that's something that is important to you. So yeah, there's definitely different options if you don't want to be on a time clock. It's interesting if you have a premature rupture of membranes or if you have a water leak at 26 weeks, they'll let you go up to 6 weeks. I was just talking with Dr. Stuart Fishbein, who has Birthing Miracles podcast, and he is amazing. He's an OB-GYN who does breech birth, home births. He's amazing. And he was saying, at 6 weeks, you can still be leaking waters, but, as soon as your water breaks, you got 18 hours as soon as your full term. Why the difference? And why has there not been a conversation with that? So it's just everything gets so fearful around birth because what most people don't realize is when you are pregnant, the OB that you're working with is at fault for 100% of things. When that baby's born, if that cord is cut and something happens to the baby, it's the pediatrician's fault. If the cord is still attached and something happens, it's the OB's fault. So it's literally a liability shift that happens when that cord gets cut, which is, why the whole idea of let the cord go, like let the placenta, let it stop pulsing, let the cord stop pulsing, so the baby has all of the blood. You're missing like a third of the baby's blood by stopping that cord from pulsing and just saying, nope, we need to get this baby off right away. It's completely a liability thing. It's not a safety thing.
So keeping the umbilical cord connected to the baby for an extended period of time is helpful.
Absolutely. Yep. It's going to decrease jaundice. It's going to decrease, that's the baby's blood.
Yeah.
That's how the baby's been filtering its blood is through that placenta. So let the baby have the blood and let that cord stop pulsing. Let it go white.
There is so much I know that we can talk about. I feel like we need to do another class or something, especially for moms. I think we just need to do conception, okay? For people who really want to dive a little deeper. Before you get out of here, though, one word you are committed to in this season of your life.
Vulnerability.
I think you got to be doing this work.
Yeah, it's been scary. I've been very protected in my little bubble for the last 15 years, and actually getting out and talking about this and helping people understand that they do have options, it's scary, and it's I just hope that people see my heart in it and that my intent has nothing to do with an agenda. It has everything to do with I want these families together. I want these moms to enjoy their babies. I don't want them to face what I had to face.
Yeah. Vulnerability. Dr. Marcia Schaefer, what a wonderful, enlightening conversation. This has been so good. Vault Empowers Talks, another good one for the books. If you are looking to conceive in this season, baby, it's going to require some things from you. I hope you share this with somebody who needs this in their life. Until next time, you guys, I'm your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.